They said it would change everything. Sleek, powerful, efficient. The International Prostar rolled onto American highways like a symbol of the future, one that promised better fuel economy, more comfort, and cutting-edge technology for the modern trucker. But behind the shine of its chrome and the promise of progress, something darker was waiting. In the early 2010s, the Prostar quickly became a favorite among fleet owners and independent drivers. Ads boasted of unmatched performance, lower emissions, and a revolutionary engine design that would cut costs and increase uptime. And for a while, it delivered, or at least, it seemed like it did. But then, one by one, the problems began to surface. Strange breakdowns, unexplained engine failures, stories whispered at truck stops, online forums filled with frustration and disbelief. And then, tragedy. Lives were lost. Hard-working men and women who trusted this machine with their livelihoods, and in some cases, their lives, never made it home. What went wrong? How did a truck that promised so much end up destroying reputations, bankrupting companies, and shattering families? And most importantly, why did no one stop it before it was too late? Tonight, you're not just watching a video. You're entering a side of the trucking world few dare to talk about. We'll take you behind the marketing, beneath the metal, and into the stories that never made the headlines, but should have. This is not about hate. It's about truth. And in an industry where your rig is your life, truth is everything. In the next few minutes, we'll explore how one truck, designed to be a hero, became a silent villain on America's roads. You'll hear real stories, see real numbers, and understand what really went down behind the wheel of the International Prostar. Because if we don't learn from the past, we're bound to drive right back into it. Stay with us. What you're about to hear might just save someone's life. Now, let's take a closer look at what went wrong under the hood. When the International Prostar first hit the market, it was introduced as a game changer. Backed by Navistar, a company with decades of industry experience, it was meant to redefine what a long-haul truck could be. It featured sleek aerodynamics, promises of fuel efficiency, and most importantly, a bold new engine, the Max Force. This engine didn't use the standard selective catalytic reduction (SCR) system like other trucks. Instead, Navistar put their faith in an exhaust gas recirculation (EGR), only designed to meet emissions standards. They branded it as simpler, cheaper, and more reliable. No need for DEF fluid, no complicated sensors, just pure innovation, at least on paper. But in practice, it was something else entirely. Drivers began to report strange issues: engines that overheated without warning, trucks that lost power on steep grades, and maintenance lights that seemed to light up for no reason at all. Mechanics struggled to diagnose the problems, and Navistar's support systems often blamed the drivers or suggested basic troubleshooting. What many didn't realize at the time was that the EGR-only system was under tremendous strain. It pushed heat and soot through the engine in ways that no amount of engineering could fully compensate for. Components wore out faster, sensors failed constantly, and engines began to break down, sometimes catastrophically, miles from the nearest help. Then came the domino effect. Breakdowns turned into delays. Delays turned into lost contracts. And for owner-operators, those mechanical failures became financial disasters. Some drivers poured tens of thousands of dollars into repairs, only for the same issues to return within weeks. One veteran driver described it like this: "It felt like I was driving a time bomb. You never knew when it was going to die, and it always did at the worst moment. Don't. As stories piled up, forums like Truckers Report and YouTube channels began to fill with warnings. Videos titled, "Why I'll Never Drive a Prostar Again," started gaining traction. But by then, thousands of units had already been sold and financed. Navistar, meanwhile, continued to insist that the truck's design was solid. But in 2012, the cracks really began to show. The company faced multiple lawsuits. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission launched investigations into their handling of emissions certifications. And most importantly, drivers were losing faith. This wasn't just about a few bad engines. It was about trust. A truck is more than just a machine. For those behind the wheel, it's a livelihood, a shelter, a lifeline. And when that lifeline fails, the consequences go far beyond a broken part. The Prostar didn't just fail in the shop, it failed on the highway. In the dark, in the rain, with 80,000 pounds of cargo behind it. But the worst part wasn't the breakdowns or the lost income. It was the moments when the truck gave out, and someone didn't walk away. Because the damage wasn't always mechanical. Sometimes it was fatal. Mike Thompson had been hauling freight for 23 years. He knew every curve on I-70 between Colorado and Missouri. He was the kind of driver who checked his oil twice before sunrise and kept a spare flashlight in every compartment. But none of that mattered the night his International Prostar lost all engine power coming down a steep descent near Glenwood Canyon. Witnesses say the truck began to slow unnaturally, smoke pouring from under the hood. Moments later, it veered off the shoulder and collided with a concrete barrier. Mike didn't survive. Investigators found that the EGR system had failed, leading to overheating and complete engine shutdown, leaving him powerless, with gravity doing the rest. His was not an isolated case. Over the years, more stories surfaced. Drivers who lost control during critical moments, trucks that stalled in traffic, braking systems that failed after the engine shut down unexpectedly. While some accidents were survivable, others were not. And for every fatal crash, there were families left behind. Wives, sons, daughters, asking why a machine that was supposed to be safe turned deadly. Some families filed lawsuits. Others simply walked away from the industry, unable to trust the very tools that once supported them. One of the most gut-wrenching aspects of these tragedies was how often they could have been prevented. Mechanics later revealed that recurring issues had been flagged, that service bulletins had been issued, but that the core design flaws remained unaddressed. These weren't just bad luck events. They were patterns, and those patterns pointed to a systemic failure, one that cost more than money. It cost lives. Meanwhile, safer alternatives sat parked in nearby lots, trucks from Freightliner, Kenworth, or Volvo, that, while not perfect, didn't carry the same fatal risks. In a world where time is money and reliability means survival, the Prostar was a gamble that many couldn't afford to lose. Yet the price was paid anyway. With blood. Because when a steering wheel becomes a weapon, when the machine you trust turns against you, it's no longer about horsepower or torque. It's about who comes home at the end of the day. And who doesn't. The International Prostar wasn't just a misstep in engineering, it became a cautionary tale written in diesel, sweat, and tragedy. For an industry built on trust, its failure wasn't mechanical alone, it was moral. Because when lives are lost and nothing changes, silence becomes complicity. So let this serve as a reminder. Not every innovation is progress. Not every promise is protection. And in the world of trucking, what you drive can determine whether you live to drive again. If you're behind the wheel, stay sharp. Ask questions. Know your rig. Because the next curve could be yours. And if this story moved you, If you believe the truth needs a voice on these roads, subscribe to Trucks Life. Here, we don't chase headlines. We chase answers, and we drive for the ones who can't anymore. Because every truck has a story, and it's time we told the right ones.